Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov complained that the US initially offered Russia agreements to end the war in Ukraine, but now has allegedly backed out of them. According to him, the agreements in question were discussed in Anchorage, Alaska, during the summit between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. Lavrov stated that it was specifically the US position that was important for Russia. His interview is quoted by the TASS news agency. For the Russian Federation, the situation and the US position on Ukraine were important. It didn't matter what was said in Kyiv or what the rabid Russophobes in the EU said. That's a quote. According to him, the US proposed agreements to Russia for resolving the issue of the Russian-Ukrainian war. Moscow reportedly agreed to these proposals, but now Washington itself has backed out of the agreements. Lavrov called for a more mature and responsible approach to solving this problem. He also further pointed out that after the summit in Alaska, Russia and the United States were expected to begin to move toward broader cooperation. But in reality, the complete and total opposite happened. The Russian foreign minister declared that Russia must ensure its own national security, since allegedly there are threats coming from Europe about the possibility of a great war. Lavrov expressed his grievances that the West has unleashed a global war against Russia and is also trying to punish its partners. He specifically emphasized that the Kremlin will oppose the deployment of any weapons on Ukrainian territory that would threaten Russian security. However, he did not specify exactly what kind of weapons he was referring to. And do you believe in a major war between Russia and Europe, or perhaps between Russia and the US? Share your thoughts in the comments and we'll read them. In general, Sergei Lavrov also commented on the US sanctions imposed against Russian oil companies. According to his recent statements, this is an attempt to suppress and undermine competitors. In addition, he expressed his complaints that the US is trying to control Russia's military technical cooperation with India and other key members of the BRICS alliance. He stated that the West allegedly invented Russia's so-called shadow fleet and that ships are being detained as part of the struggle to maintain their waning dominance. Russia does not see any bright future in economic relations with the US, Lavrov admitted. Based on the statements provided by him, the Donald Trump administration not only has failed to lift the sanctions imposed by the previous Joe Biden administration to punish Russia, but it is also continuously introducing even more new ones. At the same time, Lavrov said that Russia remains open to cooperation with the US in the future, but that American politicians themselves are allegedly creating artificial obstacles. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov also emphasized during his remarks that Russia does not plan to attack Europe. However, if the West strikes Russia first, the Kremlin will be forced to retaliate with all available means. It will not be like a special military operation, declared the Russian foreign minister. And which Europe are we supposed to attack? We have absolutely no need for that, said Lavrov. However, he clarified that in the event of a threat to Russia, Moscow's response would not be limited to a special military operation. If Europe suddenly starts attacking Russia, it will not be a special military operation on our part. It will be a full-scale military response using all available military means, Lavrov noted. He also accused Ukraine of launching the first strikes on energy infrastructure and stated that Russia is responding in kind. Russia's patience is not limitless, it measured for a long time before cutting off, Lavrov stated. In particular, he pointed out that Russia had shown goodwill, making a specific reference to the energy truce in 2025, which, according to him, was subsequently violated by Kyiv. In addition, Lavrov stated that Russia explained to the US that the main issue for Moscow is not about territories, but supposedly about people. The foreign minister also claimed that Moscow has a clear conscience because it allegedly recognized Ukraine as a neutral and non-nuclear country. And what would you say in response to Lavrov? Make sure to write your answers in the comments and we'll read them. Don't forget to leave a like.
Friends, the sad horse who runs the Russian Foreign Ministry, Sergei Lavrov, has made a statement. Video. It's already on my Telegram channel and on Facebook. Honestly, I just want to ask Lavrov, are you crying? He says America isn't fulfilling its obligations, isn't offering support. He says they reached such a good agreement in Ankara, everything was set for a peaceful settlement, as he puts it, of the Ukrainian issue. But America isn't helping, not at all. And he added that in Europe there are Russophobes, either militant or drunk. So basically there are scary Russophobes in Europe. America isn't helping and Ukraine is biting back. Of course, they're also continuing to make trouble in every possible way. And indeed, Russia is conducting negotiations in its own manner. Kharkiv, Odessa. Last night a child died, a young woman died. So they carried out strikes, but in Volgograd something was beautifully flashing and burning for them. I'm waiting for information on exactly what it was, but there's already video, and the video is quite striking. So Ukraine is snapping back, Europe is Russophobic, and what was he expecting from the States? The States are imposing sanctions, hunting down tankers. Now India is hunting tankers too. That's also quite a blow in its own way. Friends, here's a video of a sad Lavrov and a Volgograd flashing. And a photo of the tankers that India seized yesterday, 3 of them at once. You can find these on my Telegram channel, Sazonov Official, and on Facebook as Kirill Pravdorub. The links are in the video description. Overall, the situation is pretty straightforward. The Kremlin had a clear understanding. They can't achieve their goals, not even the minimal ones, not even occupying the Donetsk region by military means. I already broke down the offensive on Sloviansk this morning. The offensive on Huliaipol isn't working out. There aren't enough reserves, so they have to be redeployed from other directions. And this will end with either us moving some of our own forces or starting to push them back there. And they were really counting on Trump's help. They expected that he would do all the work for them, twist our arms, and for the sake of signing a peace agreement, leave us without weapons and support while lifting sanctions from Russia. No, things turned out completely differently. And we warned that things would not go as planned. We warned that sit down at the negotiating table, make a deal on reasonable terms, and don't just imitate the process while telling stories about the Pechenegs and the Polovtsians. Moscow didn't get the message. They thought they were the cleverest, that they would trick Europe, trick Trump, and in the end get everything they wanted. No, it didn't work out. For every clever little nut, there's a bolt with the right thread, and in our case, one was found. So they're going to keep pressing them. The economic crisis in Russia is getting closer and harsher, and no matter what they say over there about everything being fine, unemployment at its lowest level, things are already not so good. There's already a crisis, and by summer most likely it'll hit like a jackhammer. All of this will collapse. Meanwhile, our guys are squeezing them, our guys are holding them down. The enemy can't boast of any significant successes in their offensive. None at all. 500 meters along the Bakhmut-Slavyansk highway in a week. That's quite an offensive, of course. But at the cost of heavy losses, and no one is going to reach Slavyansk this way. And there are no reserves to draw from, because in reality they're fighting straight off the bat. They just gather people. If there's time, they give them a bit of training. Otherwise, they just get a quick briefing. Here's your rifle and trigger, enemies over there, that's your commander. That's it. Shoot that way. That's the kind of briefing they get. And all of this goes straight into the assault right off the bat. So, in January, they lost about 30,000 and recruited 22,000. That's a good trend. Really, this hasn't happened since the start of the war, that they've lost more than they could make up for. So Lavrov is right to be upset. Actually, have you noticed the little horse has been sad all the time lately? It seems he sees that everything is going completely wrong and in the wrong direction. Maybe they'll have to replace Dobrov with someone completely brainless like Ryabkov, who will just shout, "NATO, pack your bags and get back behind the 1997 borders." Although maybe even he won't be shouting anymore. They've already done all their shouting. Friends, subscribe to my Telegram and Facebook. News comes out there right away and in more detail. There I've written about Russia's offensive, And there are videos of what they're trying to bomb and where we strike back. Subscribe to this channel too. I'd be glad to see you here. Ukraine will prevail.